Well, here we meet for one last time. After that, your summer vacation begins. The headache of the final exam is over. So you should thank me. It's that I got your final exam out of the way. You can start your summer, have a good time, be safe, and all the good stuff I can say about you. Okay, so that is the reason I had administered the exam a little early so that toward the end, you're a little more relaxed. Otherwise, if it was not for that exam, you would have been anxious at this time, okay? So let us continue with the last lecture of this semester on petroleum agreements. And I promise you, this is not going to be a very long one. It's going to be a short lecture. I don't want to leave anything at the end on the last lecture to tell you everything I wanted to tell you during the entire semester. It would be foolish if I left all the important thing on the last few minutes of the last lecture. How foolish would that be? So most important things have already been discussed. And there's only one more thing that is left that we should wrap it up in a very short time. Okay. I guarantee you it won't be a long lecture. Number 2, you've already appeared in the exam and you will have realized and that I kept my promise regarding the examination. And that is, I said, the exam will be straightforward. It would not be tricky. And I delivered to that promise that, as you noticed, the exam was straightforward. It was not tricky. And the evidence of that is most of you, I would not say all of you, did extremely well in the exam. I was very pleased with the performance. And throughout the semester, hardly any, maybe there was one question asked of all the students put together. That tells me that the lectures were quite clear. Otherwise, I would have been called by the students every day, say, can you explain this, or can you explain this? But that didn't happen. And that is clear illustration, example that I hope and I pray that everything was clear. And when I saw the exam results, I thought everything was well done by you folks. Not all, I think most of all, maybe a few rare examples that I can say that didn't do as well, but they're still clear. There's not a, I don't know if there anybody failed. I don't think so. No, I don't believe in that. And so if you attended the course, you paid attention, you did okay. Okay. Having said that, the only part that is left to cover is a negotiation we've done is dispute resolution. We've talked about negotiation and like in a marriage, I come back to the old saying is agreement is a marriage, and there are differences of opinion. And how do you settle those? Not the small ones. I'm talking about some in marriage. How the same way in agreements there are disputes or differences of opinion. The question is between the government and the company and the government and the government and the company is between the companies and so on. How do you settle those disputes? Okay. Well, there are several ways. Normally, if you're present in the class, I would ask you to help me. Since you're not, therefore, I'll go ahead and do the lecturing part. That one obvious way to settle a dispute is to go to a court of law. That is why we have judges. Both sides present their case to the judge, and the judge renders his judgment and takes care of the dispute. That's common. And it is a very tricky question to bring up dispute resolution in the agreement because the company that is coming, let's say, inside to the country, host country, they might say, well, we don't trust your judges because you appointed the judges. So they're going to rule in your favor. No, again, you cannot accuse the judges of being unbiased or being biased. Nobody wants to listen to that. So then the question is, how do you settle a dispute if not through the judicial process? That's the best one. Another way would be to go for arbitration. So if you ask me to define arbitration, it's very straightforward and simple. Arbitration is a method to settle disputes. That's all. It's just a method, a way. If the arbitration, if not happy to take place, and I'm going to spend about 10 minutes on arbitration, you can ask for international arbitration. It's well, okay, we will go to an international forum, like the International Chamber of Commerce in Paris as an example, and ask them, because they're outside the jurisdiction of the country where you're operating, to render the judgment. So there's no influence from the host government judge and the judges that are appointed the host. So that when you're outside the country or the host government, that means you're in international arbitration. That's all. That's all. So the question is, now going to some nuts and bolts of this arbitration process, how does it all happen? Well, you can write a book upon it. But I have less than 5 to 7 to 10 minutes to explain to you how does the arbitration process proceed. Well, of course, there are two sides to a dispute. The way it starts is one company A, let us say, that has some dispute with the company B. And the company A will start the arbitration by giving the company B a notice that we are starting the arbitration. And in that notice, the company A that is going to start the arbitration shall communicate in its statement in writing to the other company B and say, what are we arguing about? What is the dispute? And then company A will what? Submit a statement of facts that supports the claim. Why are you claiming this? Give us some facts. So that is the responsibility of company A that is initiating the arbitration. Company A is required to point out the issue. What is the issue in this matter? You're claiming A, but what is the issue? And one more thing, the company A has to submit writing to company B. What relief are you or remedy are you seeking? So company A has to say, well, this is a problem with you. These are the facts. These are the issues. Now, in order to resolve this, these are the ways you can remedy it. You can fix the problem. So they can propose. No, however where they think they can settle this, they have to propose. Okay, that is the responsibility of company A. And of course, when it gets to company B, they will have a little time to respond to all that. So they will be defending. There will be a statement of defense submitted to company A by company B. What is the defense? If it were to proceed, then both A and B will look for a place where to start the arbitration. Okay. Now, sometimes they say, well, of course, we all have to have how to proceed, how to conduct the arbitration. That in itself will take some negotiating and could cause some problems. What time will we meet? Who will pay for all this? Which country or which city do we have to know? All this have to be settled. Or both of them say, well, let us go to an international body rather than arguing amongst ourselves. They say, well, let us go to an international body. I'll give you an example. International Chamber of Commerce. They've already established the rules how to conduct arbitration. So we do not have to reinvent the wheel, start all over again. We'll just accept whatever rules they have determined for this purpose. If they all agree, then that's where the arbitration process will begin. So what does it mean the arbitration process will begin? Question comes up. How many arbitrators do you need? And how do you select them? It's a logical question. I'm not adding supernatural things to your knowledge. Selection and how many? Well, if it is a modest kind of a medium range arbitration dispute, you can have 3 arbitrators. Odd number is always a good idea. How do you pick the 3? Well, typically the students would say, let one company A pick one arbitrator, company B picks this other arbitrator B. Then the question is, there have to be 3 arbitrators, right? So how do we end up picking the 3rd arbitrator? It's a simple question, but a very difficult answer. You can't expect A and B arbitrators of those companies to agree on the 3rd one. I normally ask these questions of the class and we discuss. Well, we can move on. We don't have the luxury of the class sitting in front of me. So the way to do and pick the 3rd arbitrator, one way is to identify, name, and appointing authority. What does that mean? That means that both sides can say, if we cannot agree on the 3rd arbitrator, we will ask the appointing authority, Pope Francis I, or the Secretary General of the United Nations. I'm just exaggerating. Whoever you think you can rely on his or her judgment, let that person, the 3rd one, decide who should be not the third one, who should be the 3rd arbitrator. And whatever he or she decides, we will accept that as the 3rd arbitrator. That's another way to do it. I'm just giving you an idea. Question comes up. Logical. You think, give it a minute to think yourself. What language and what rules should the procedure for arbitration adopt? And in what language should they conduct the arbitration? It's a logical question. What language? Always ask this question of the students and we have discussion. No time for discussion. We are not there together. You can see I pack a lot in a very short time because there's no discussion going on here. The same lecture of 1 hour could stretch it easily into 3 hours. Well, one is, the language is what? You can have the language in whatever language you want. You can have the language of the procedure in any language you want. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that if there is a dispute, it will go to the arbitrators or to the judge. So the question is, which language does the judge or the arbitrators understand? What language are they competent to understand in? Whatever it is. So you should therefore, logically, everything is logical, draw up your arbitration procedures and the arguments for and against the disputed situation in the language that you think the judge is going to read and understand. It doesn't matter whatever language that is. You just ascertain what language he or she would, where we will go for adjudication to settle our disputes, okay? Nationality of arbitrators can be also important. What nationality should we accept them? These are generally for major disputes. Is there a guarantee that 2 arbitrators or the 3rd arbitrator is going to live there forever and ever? No, there is no guarantee. So the question is, one steps down, the arbitrator gets sick or dies. The question then, how do we fill that vacancy? So you can see now, there's so many things to be discussed before you vote for arbitration. It's not as you can write on, we will settle our dispute through arbitration, and we will follow the rules adopted by the United Nations. And there is a And there's an agency in the United Nations that has rules to how to conduct arbitration. There's one in the World Bank. You can say, well, we'll go follow the World Bank situation, okay, or the rules, okay? But that have to be identified. One advantage of arbitration is, unlike the court of law, bit of education here, the arbitration can be kept private, not public. Whatever goes on in arbitration process can be kept private. Disputes can be kept private. Whereas anything that goes in the court of law, judges, is automatically public. Anybody can sit there and listen to what's going on, okay? So remember that, that's a very important thing. Most businessmen do not want to show everything they know and have in public, okay? So the advantage is arbitration, you say, well, I don't want to, my process of arbitration and the dispute that we're having it told to everybody, okay? One more thing before we move on to something else. Global territorial arbitration is the next subject, not our territorial dispute resolution with the next subject, and then we'll wrap it up. Very important point here. Who will pay for the cost of after all, you're going to rent some rooms in a building. It could last 3, 4, 5 weeks, the arbitration. People are going to stay in the hotel. There are attorneys involved. Golly, that can be a very expensive process. Question is, who should then pay for all that? Again, this is a point of discussion in the class. Same story, can't do it, not face to face. So again, this could be a full day lecture just on arbitration. We put it in 10 minutes or less. Somebody say the loser, somebody say the winner, somebody say both. I've heard all of the arguments, nothing new. If you ask me, I would say the loser, the one who loses in the arbitration dispute, should pay for the cost. Why? Simple. If the case is weak and the person thinks he could lose easily, and if he loses, he will end up paying for it, do you think the person in his right mind is going to go for meaningless lawsuits? Nothing is going to come out of it other than he will be ending up paying for everybody's costs if he loses, and he's going to lose because he's got a weak case. This is the problem we face in the United States. We see these ads, watch those ads next time on TV. The lawyers will always say, well, bring your case to me. Unless I win, I will not charge you anything. If I win, I will, 20, 30, 40% of the judgment. But if you lose, or I lose, or we lose, you will, don't worry about it. We're not going to charge you anything. So what's the result? Every time you feel like, oh, I don't like the color of your tie, you can go and fire a lawyer, and you can. That blue colored tie hit my eyes. I couldn't sleep at night. Sue the guy for $1 million. Why? If you lose it, well, you don't have to pay the lawyer or the arbitrator a dime. Chances maybe 1 in a million, you may win. Well, in 1 in a million, you make $2 million because you couldn't sleep. It's well, maybe worth it. So that is the problem we have in this country sometimes. Too much, and far too much litigation on meaningless, frivolous. Frivolous means meaningless lawsuit where there's no merit, there's no substance. We take that out and say, you lose, you pay. I don't think I'm going to the court of law unless I've got a very strong case. Okay? So this is the second method to settle a dispute. First is what? Go to the court of law. The second is to go for arbitration. And the third one, let me say at the very outset, is only for technical disputes, I insist, is a very good idea, only for technical areas of dispute. to get a technical expert, both sides agree on a technical expert and say, whatever the super technical guy says about water flooding, whether it should be today or tomorrow, we'll accept it. Because if you go to the judges, they're generally lawyers, attorneys, and the arbitrators are attorneys and lawyers. They have no clue what is a water flood. So how can they tell you what's a good idea? You do it or he do it. You do it his way, you do it, he does your way. Do it today or tomorrow. But a technical expert would know the benefit, the advantages of doing it today versus the disadvantages of doing it today. Whatever technical factors might be. Drill deeper, not drill horizontally, not drill. There are hundreds of technical matters that come into dispute. Okay. So for that, I would pick a knowledgeable guy in that field. Okay. So as I said, I've cited 3 different examples. Go to the court of law. Some companies have a problem with that because they say judges are your appointees. Arbitration is another one. And then it has this, what language, who pays, and all that good stuff. And third one is what? Get a technical expert to render his or her judgment. These are the disputes that can arise between companies, between one company and another company, between the government and the company. But the other kinds of disputes that we're going to talk briefly about now, these are called territorial disputes. What does that mean? Wherever you turn today, globally, I'm talking the world map, neighbors are fighting, disputing, disagreeing on borders. You know border? Boundary? We had it for many years, a dispute between Mexico and the United States in the Gulf of Mexico, Norway and Great Britain, Cameroon and Nigeria, Thailand and Malaysia, Indonesia and Australia, and on and on and on and on. One country claims this is our area, the other one claims this is our area. You to get out of here, don't look for oil here. Very common these days. Part of the reason is technology. I'll give you 2, maybe even 3 different examples of territorial, 2 countries claiming the same territory, territory area. Let me take you back. First, this problem. Between a dispute that happened between between UK, United Kingdom and Norway many years back, because of UNCLOS. What is UNCLOS? You probably heard about it from me. United Nations Convention of Law of the Sea. United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. UNCLOS, UNCLOS. That establishes the territorial jurisdiction, the United Nations Law of the Sea. That established the jurisdiction of nations in the ocean 200 miles from where the sea starts. 200 miles. That's the territory of the nation from where you're counting the miles. Let me show you an example of this, what I mean. Norway and UK, I'm going to take that as an example. Norway, UK. Norway claims they have a territorial jurisdiction of 200 miles. 200 miles. UK claims they have a territorial jurisdiction of 200 miles. The distance between Norway and UK is not 400 miles. So there's bound to be an overlapping of territory. So you can see this area, remember this area? This is overlapping of jurisdiction. Both countries can claim this is theirs. But, well, okay, that's it. They're civilized people in UK and Norway. They said, hey, forget the United Nations law of the sea. That's what they're saying. Let's do a simple thing. Let us take this distance between Norway and Sweden, or Norway and UK, and divide it by half. Look. So here it is, the red line here. Half of this side goes to Norway, half goes to UK. So half, equidistance. I think this is a very good UK. Very civilized way. Take the distance between Norway and UK, divided by half, equidistance from here to here, equidistance from here to here. Both are happy, you can proceed. Not a bad idea, I like that. This is a territorial problem with territorial overlapping. There is a problem that most people have not heard about on oil. This is Saudi Arabia. Three countries: Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Iraq. We all know, everybody and his baby even knows that Iraq invaded Kuwait. They went across the border and claimed Kuwaiti was part of Iraqi territory. Then, you may read in the books of 1991 history, then our forces went and then liberated Kuwait and all the rest. So we all know there has been a problem, territorial problem, between Iraq and Kuwait. This is common knowledge, folks. However, it is not common knowledge. Very few people know there has been is a problem with Saudi Arabia and Kuwait on the southern border of Kuwait. Everybody knows about Iraq and Kuwait, but nobody knows, or not many know about the problem with Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. What is that problem on the southern border? You see, this is Kuwait, this is the border, this is Saudi Arabia, and all the shaded area lies on both sides of the border on Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, and both countries claim it is their area. This is in oil literature. If you look up, you'll see this area has a name. This one, red, called the neutral zone. This is the name of this area, neutral zone. So, how did that settle the dispute? Not a bad idea. Saudi Arabia and Kuwait said 40 plus years ago, let us hire a company. Arabian Oil Company was the name. Let us hire Arabian Oil Company. Let Arabian Oil Company, hired by both together, operate in this neutral zone and produce the oil in the neutral. Let's not wait. Let them start producing in the neutral zone. And whatever the Arabian Oil Company produces, whatever they do, half of it go to Kuwait, half of the production goes to Saudi Arabia. So they got a single operator to operate, produce, and then share 50-50 between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. Not a bad idea. I like this idea also. By the way, the oil company that was operating in this neutral zone, the name I said was Arabian Oil Company. Normally I said to students, guess from which country is Arabian Oil Company? Rarely, if ever, never has anybody ever guessed from which country does Arabian Oil Company come from. You know where? Japan. Arabian Oil Company is 100% Japanese. Only the name is Arabia. So now you have a Japanese looking for oil, producing oil over there. The third and the last method, let's try the territorial dispute. Territorial. That's what we're talking about. the discussion so far is how to test settle international territorial dispute, where both countries claim to have the jurisdiction in the same area, same territory. Talked about how Norway, UK settled it, how the Saudis and the Kuwaitis. Now we talk about a third and the last way to settle disputes that is overlapping territory. It is called the Joint Development Zone, and I've written it, please write it down. To create a joint development zone. Generally referred to as JDZ, Joint Development Zone. In this case, what happens? This is the approach of a dispute between, I've written it, Thailand and Malaysia. You can read it yourself, Thailand and Malaysia. So in each of the three examples, I've given three examples for each of the method of resolution of disputes. How does this work? The way this works is very simple, okay? That the disputed area, both sides, Thailand and Malaysia, agree that we should jointly develop it. So we will create another body, an organization, an authority, like another mini government. We will maybe get 2 representatives of the government of Thailand, 2 representatives of the government of Malaysia. Together there are 4. These 4 representatives will then take charge of the joint development zone. Whatever they decide, both sides will agree. That means if they decide, well, okay, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to give this bid to so-and-so, we want to have a concession here, whatever they decide, these 4 individuals, in this case, will accept it. So there's like a mini government. So you've created this so-called mini government, mini regulatory body to administer that area. Incidentally, the JDZ approach has been adopted in most cases. This is a very prevalent, a very common approach is to create the JDZ, and I've given you the example of Thailand and Malaysia. I hope this is clear to you. And with that, let me end the course dealing with international petroleum concessions and agreements, and this dispute resolution being the last chapter in that course. Okay, so that ends that course. Now, some general remarks about, not the course generally, about 2 minutes of that. Please share that, allow me to take 2 minutes of yours. And that is that the benefit of this course to you. Why the need for the course to you? What is the benefit of the course to me? Let me talk about myself first. I feel good because I have benefited. You say, Dr. Malik, how have you benefited? I'll tell you how, because again, I'm a different kind of a teacher. I've benefited because you have benefited. Nothing gives me more pleasure to share the little knowledge with whoever wants to listen to me. I've shared it with you. That gives me immense pleasure. Hope one day you will remember me for what I've taught you, if you ever come across a situation, need this knowledge. And I guarantee you, you will need it sooner than you think you will need it. Along with this course, and the energy finance course that I teach on Thursday, I've created maybe a mini MBA, mini small scale. I didn't go into accounting. I didn't go to marketing. I didn't go to management. I just gave you the nuts and bolts of a mini oil-related program. I hope you benefit from it. It's always a pleasure sharing your knowledge. Believe me, take it from an old man. It gives far, far more pleasure to give than to receive. I know you might feel differently. You're young. I was young. I've said it many times. Giving is a joy, particularly if the giving is coming from the heart. There's nothing that replaces that joy. Take it, please. Okay? Reward me by getting an A, not giving, getting an A, meaning if you all come back with a beautiful A, I'm the happiest person. That way you understood everything I said in the class. I hope you will reward me by doing that. I hope you will. Now, further reward me when you reach these higher ranks in your company, big bosses you become. 5, 7 years, if I'm still alive, drop me a line, please. Say, Dr. Malik, how are you? Are you keeping your mission alive? I don't know if I will. I'm an old man. You help me and I benefit from the little knowledge I got from you. That will make my day. That is my reward. That is my joy. Remember, I further say that when anybody, engineer, anybody joins a company, they want this person like you to have a skill. You're a reservoir engineer, they know where to place you. You're a production logging man, they know where to place your woman. As you progress 4, 5, 7 years in the company, all this business of reservoir, it goes behind. As you go up in the ranks of the company, become super big bosses. When you say, I'm a manager, what does that mean? Now you are taking in knowledge of courses similar to mine and the business, this is a kind of business related course or the finance related course that I teach. Because no president of the company is going to sit in actual negotiation. He's got younger people like you to do that. But as you grow in the company, all the technical, wonderful, great technical things and knowledge you've acquired, you're going to use it. But as you grow up in an expanding company, that you may still know it, but this, what I'm teaching you now, and the finance and a few of the business courses, and I do another business course, will become handy. For example, the course that is most I teach around the world, I haven't taught it here because I've been too busy, is called Investment Decision Making in the International Oil Industry. How do Exxon, Chevron, BP, Shell, how do they decide which project to invest in this project or that, based on economic consideration, not forget the technology. That's my favorite course. Besides other favorite, I've got every course. Very useful. Also, that helps you develop how should you invest your money. The same method that Exxon's chairman will use it to decide where to invest the money, Exxon, the same you will use to understand and put your own investment money in the same method. So it's very useful. And I've taught it, God knows so many times. That is not for me to decide what to be taught in the next spring. I only teach in the spring. It is for you and the chairman, Dr. Olson. He has all the authority of who teaches what, when, and how. Okay, not I, and nobody else does. Okay. I wish that I taught this course in person because of my unusual circumstances. I don't want to get into details. I would have loved to have taught this person, not online. But the circumstances were not in my control. That made me do the online. I hope next time I can teach in person. There's a different approach to teaching, but this is the next best thing. Those I reluctantly had to accept teaching it online. It was not my first way to do it, but again, I don't want to go into a lot of details. I could not, because there were some serious matters not related to me, somebody else, the health related. So I could not be exposed to the external COVID. No, that would be a very, very serious matter. Question of, I mean, I can't even begin to explain. So from that, not me, somebody who was very close to me could have caught the COVID from me if I'd gone on. So it was strictly for those reasons, medical reasons, that I just could not take that risk. I hope you understand, okay? But in the meantime, I did my very best. Trust me, you know that sometimes I use 2, 3, 4 words to say the same thing, hoping you'll pick up whichever word you like. It's a pleasure. I do not take teaching as a job. I don't think any professor, any teacher should look at teaching as a job. I don't think he should. He's not qualified to be a teacher. You can say that to anybody you want to say. Dr. Malik said, if you look at teaching as a job, quit. I'm different. It's a mission. As a teacher, we have the highest responsibility. I look at it that way. No job comes close to the responsibility that a teacher shoulders. You're not going to hear that from anybody. Because, teacher, my fellow teacher, are going to leave this country in your hands. My show is over. We're going, making place for you. Remember that. So how can I say more than say, this treasure called the United States of America, my country, and whichever country you come from, we, the teachers, are leaving in your hand. Take care of it. My best wishes to you. Please, I urge you to mask up and be good citizen and protect yourself, and more importantly, protect others also. Good luck and have a wonderful summer. Best wishes. I hope so. See you one day in person. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you very much.